I was pleasantly surprised by the Bikeriders. I went in not expecting a lot. It looked very, very average, but came out with a smile on my face. I thought it was very pleasant. There was lots of action. There's lots of romance. There's all sorts. There's a lot to come to it. It reminded me a lot of if Goodfellas and This Is England had a baby. That is the Bikeriders. It's got Tom Hardy doing a Joe Pesci voice.
I'm thinking of starting a writing club.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
I'll admit, at first I thought Tom Hardy's Joe Pesci voice was a little bit over the top as an American accent from around Chicago when I first heard it. But then after a while you kind of get used to it, and I think it does work. But from the start I thought Kathy, Jodie Comer, going from a Scouse accent in real life to this thick Midwestern American accent works really well. Really, really well. I think the reason why a lot of people don't like it or don't warm to it as much is because it feels out of its time. It feels like it's a 70s film in the 2020s. Maybe if we'd got this 20, 30 years ago, we would have warmed to it a bit more. But as it stands, it feels a bit different, not what people expected. The Bikeriders is based off a book of the same name, written by Danny Lyon, an American photographer who went round following the Chicago Outlaws motorcycle club. In the film, it's renamed to The Vandals. In my opinion, one of the best parts of the Bikeriders, the film, that is the fact that it copies and mimics some of the real-life photos from the book in the 2024 film, with Austin Butler and Tom Hardy in the roles of these motorcycle riders from the 60s and 70s. It works so well, as you can see in some of these photos that compare the real-life Benny to Austin Butler's Benny. The cinematography of the film is really astounding as you see the darkness and the pools of brightness in some of the shots. It really makes the characters and the scenes pop. Although the Bikeriders is quite safe, and even by the books at times, it doesn't mean that it shies away from the dark and gritty nature of 60s and 70s life as a motorcycle rider, and even a bystander around these people. In particular, we get a good look at Kathy's character, the female lead of the film. This was a pleasant surprise, as we don't expect to see many female perspectives on such a male-dominated space as motorcycle riding in the 60s and 70s. So it was a breath of fresh air to see Jodie Comer give such a good performance, and such a good vocal performance as Kathy. One of the big shocks of the film was the little screen time that Austin Butler got as Benny. He's hardly in the film. Admittedly, he gives a good performance, but I would have expected more or some more substance to his character for how much he was promoted in the marketing. But this deception isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I'm happy with the amount of time we got spent on Tom Hardy's Johnny and Jodie Comer's Kathy. It works very well, but it's not what I expected. As you'd probably expect with one of these big budget films set in the 60s and 70s, the soundtrack is phenomenal. It's got lots of classic tracks that you might not expect, but that are very good, such as songs from the Shangri-Las and all sorts of different artists. Personally, I find that films are one of the best places to discover new music from across the world and across the kind of stratosphere of different music genres. Arguably, the two main characters of the film are Johnny and Kathy, for just the screen time they have, as well as the screen presence they have throughout the film. They're the ones we really sink our teeth into and get to know the human lives behind the faces, let's say. Quite a few of the side characters are very good as well, with Norman Reedus, Michael Shannon, and a couple other people who have done very well as quite small characters along the roster. You kind of feel a sense of different lives being embedded throughout the film. Additionally, the direction was very good, as it effortlessly flows from scene to scene under the direction of Jeff Nichols. But yeah, Overall, I would recommend The Bikeriders to most people. I think it's a very good film, very well made, well acted, and although it might not stand out across the year, it's quite by the books. It's still very enjoyable. I think it's a good film. I don't know what I'd give it out of 10, I suppose an 8 out of 10. I think that's pretty good. Good film. Go watch it. Enjoy.